There's a kind of woman a man never forgets. Not because she begged for his attention, not because she played games, but because she embodied something rare, an energetic, a presence, a power that made her unshakable. Let me be clear. This isn't about manipulation. This is about mastery. They're not magic, the kind of woman whose absence is louder than anyone's presence. And today, I'm giving you the 5 hidden rules she lives by. Rules that make her unforgettable, irreplaceable. Rules that make a man realize, I can't live without her. So if you're ready to stop shrinking, ready to step into your power, let's begin. She doesn't compete because she doesn't need to. Competition is for the insecure, for those still trying to prove they belong. But a truly powerful woman, she already knows she does. She's not looking over her shoulder, comparing herself to who's prettier, skinnier, younger, louder. She's not caught in a silent war with other women, fighting for scraps of attention. Because she understands something deeper. A woman in her power has no rival. Her energy is so aligned, so grounded, that she's not distracted by petty games. She knows exactly who she is, and that kind of certainty is rare and unforgettable. You see, when she walks into a room, she doesn't need to announce herself. She doesn't need the tightest dress, the loudest laugh, or the flashiest story. She walks in with presence. That's the difference. Presence doesn't need volume. It needs intention. It's in the way she carries herself, shoulders back, spine tall, eyes steady. It's the unshakable calm she wears like armor. Because she's not performing. She's existing in full truth. And that energy, it hits different. People feel it before she even says a word. A man senses it instantly. He may not be able to articulate it, but something about her stillness commands attention. She's not trying to catch his eye. He's trying to figure out how he already noticed her. And here's the thing. She doesn't need to be the most beautiful woman in the room to be the most captivating. Because while beauty may turn heads, it's energy that turns hearts. She makes him pause. She makes him question. She makes him want to rise. Because the woman who doesn't need validation is the one whose presence becomes irresistible. It's not about being unattainable. It's about being undeniable. She lives by a different code. She's not interested in being chosen. Because she chooses herself every damn day. She's not auditioning for the role of girlfriend or wife. She's not trying to earn his love, affection, or loyalty. She expects it from the man who understands what he's standing in front of. She holds space for herself. She protects her peace. She doesn't betray her standards just to be seen. And ironically, that's exactly what makes her unforgettable. Because men aren't drawn to neediness. They're drawn to wholeness. There's something magnetic about a woman who doesn't shrink. She doesn't dim her light to make others comfortable. She doesn't soften her truth to keep a man from leaving. She speaks with authority, not arrogance, but assurance. Not because she thinks she's better, but because she knows she doesn't have to settle. When she loves fiercely, but she never loses herself in the process. She brings her full self to the table, heart, mind, and soul. And that kind of woman doesn't compete for a man's attention because her very presence demands it. She commands because she's done the inner work. She's bled. She's healed. She's risen from the ashes of her own destruction. She's seen herself abandoned, doubted, dismissed, and she came back stronger, not bitter, not closed off, but refined. She's forged in fire, and she knows it. That's why she doesn't tolerate anything less than real. She's not impressed by charm. She's not fooled by flattery. She's not moved by empty promises. Because she knows who she is. And once a woman fully knows herself, everything changes. A woman who has her own mission radiates differently. She walks through life with a sense of direction that no relationship can define or derail. Her purpose isn't something she discovered in a man's arms. It's something she unearthed in the quiet of her own journey. While others are busy waiting for someone to give their life meaning, she's out there creating it. Her mission might not always be clear to everyone else, but to her, it burns like a silent fire under her skin. And that fire, it's what gives her life momentum, clarity, and conviction. She's not here to be a man's better half. She's already whole. And that wholeness is precisely why a man can't forget her. There's something intensely attractive about a woman who knows where she's going. Not just career-wise, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She's not floating through life, waiting to be saved. She's not molding herself to fit into someone else's expectations. She's sculpting her own legacy. Piece by piece, day by day. And that legacy is personal, sacred. A woman with her own mission doesn't cling. She doesn't obsess, over-texts, or overanalyze his every word. Why? Because her attention is sacred. Her energy is already invested in something bigger than approval. A man who meets her knows he isn't the center of her universe. But if he's wise, he'll want to earn a place in it. She doesn't apologize for her ambition. She doesn't shrink when people say she's too much. Too intense, too focused, too independent. Let them talk. She knows that being too much for the wrong person just means she's the perfect match for someone operating at her level. Her mission grounds her. It gives her resilience. It's what holds her steady when the world tries to shake her confidence. She may have a soft heart, but don't mistake that for weakness. Her softness is her strength, precisely because it exists alongside her fire. She's a force, one that doesn't need to ask for permission or validation. She leads herself, and the truth is, men feel that. The right man doesn't want a woman who needs him to breathe. He wants a woman who breathes life into herself. Her mission makes her magnetic because it gives her a different kind of glow, a woman who's obsessed with growth. She pulls people into her orbit, not by trying, but by being. She becomes the kind of woman a man looks at and says, "Damn, she doesn't need me. But I want to grow beside her." That distinction is everything. Because when a man knows you don't need him to complete you, it shifts the entire dynamic. Now he's not your savior. He becomes your partner. And the relationship, it becomes a union of two evolving people, not a codependent trap. What's even more powerful is that her mission protects her. It becomes her compass when emotions run high. She's not led by fleeting feelings because she's anchored in something deeper. That mission keeps her from settling. It whispers in her ear when someone's energy isn't aligned with hers. It reminds her, you've got something to build. Don't get distracted by someone who doesn't know where they're going. That's why she's not impressed by superficial gestures. She doesn't fall for potential. She watches patterns. She doesn't chase excitement. She seeks alignment. And if you can't walk with her purposefully, she'll keep walking, alone if she has to. Not out of pride, but out of principle. There's nothing more unforgettable than a woman who stands for something. Because when a woman moves with intention, she doesn't just live. She leads. She inspires. She challenges the people around her to look at their own lives and ask, what am I doing with my time? A man who's ready for that kind of woman won't try to dim her light. He'll find ways to protect it. He won't compete with her purpose. He'll make room for it. Because once a man experiences the power of a woman with vision, a woman with goals bigger than romance, he knows he's not just loving a woman, he's walking beside a movement. And you don't walk away from that. She doesn't control. She inspires. And that's not just a quote on a Pinterest board. That's how she lives. You can feel the difference immediately. She's not micromanaging every move he makes. She's not checking his phone, double tapping his location, or obsessing over what he said 5 hours ago. That's not her style. Because she knows the true thing. Control is rooted in fear, and she doesn't live in fear. She doesn't operate from insecurity. She operates from influence, and influence doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It simply sets the tone. She's not interested in dominating a man. She's focused on elevating him. She doesn't want to clip his wings. She wants him to learn how to fly beside her, because she knows love is not about holding someone down. It's about raising each other up. She never begs for respect because her energy demands it. She doesn't need to issue ultimatums to maintain her standards. Her presence is the standard. The way she moves, the way she speaks, the way she holds herself, every part of her radiates clarity. She communicates with honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. She tells the truth, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And because she respects herself, she teaches the people around her how to treat her, without ever needing to lecture them. The power of her boundaries is that they're not threats. They're facts, non-negotiables. She doesn't need to punish you for crossing them. She simply won't stay where she's not honored. That kind of quiet certainty, that's power. And real men feel it. She understands something most people never learn on. You don't change a man by pushing him. You awaken his potential by challenging him. With love, with grace, with truth. She doesn't settle for mediocrity. And she doesn't let the man she loves settle either. Not because she's trying to fix him, but because she sees more in him. And she holds that vision with unwavering faith. And the most powerful part, she doesn't use shame or guilt to inspire growth. She leads with her own example. She doesn't tell him what a real man is. She lives as a real woman. And in doing so, she creates an environment where he wants to grow, not because she demanded it, but because he chooses it. That's the difference between control and leadership. Control forces, leadership inspires. And she's a leader in love. She challenges him, not to win, but to awaken. Because she knows comfort is the enemy of greatness. She'll challenge the way he thinks, the way he reacts, the way he moves through the world. Not to belittle him, but to build him. Because she knows there's more in him than even he realizes. She'll call out his excuses. She'll hold him accountable, not with cruelty, but with compassion. She doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a present man, a man who shows up, a man who evolves, a man who's willing to face himself and say, I can be better. And if he's not ready for that kind of truth, that kind of woman, she won't force it. She'll walk away because she refuses to dim her expectations to fit into someone else's comfort zone. But don't mistake her strength for hardness. She's not cold. She's not cruel. Her strength is actually the reason she can be soft. Because when you know your worth, you're not afraid to be vulnerable. She'll open up. She'll pour into him. She'll give without keeping score. But she'll never beg to be seen. She'll never plead for the bare minimum. She gives her heart fully, but not blindly. She loves with intelligence, sharp, discerning, intentional. She doesn't weaponize love to gain leverage. She offers it as a gift, not a transaction. And the man who receives it, he knows it's rare. He knows it's different. He knows it's not something he'll find again in a woman who needs to manipulate to feel powerful. Because this woman doesn't manipulate. She magnetizes. She leads with values, not ego. She doesn't need to be right all the time. She listens. She learns. She adapts. But she never folds. She can compromise without losing her core. She can love without losing herself. And that balance, that grace, that's what makes her unforgettable. Because she's not a storm that blows through your life. She's the foundation you never knew needed. And when a man meets a woman who makes him want to be more, not because she said so, but because her very presence makes it impossible to stay the same, that woman lives in his soul long after she's gone. That's not just power, that's legacy. She walks away when it's time. Not when she's tired, not when she's bitter, but when she knows, deep in her soul, that staying would mean betraying herself. That kind of woman doesn't leave to make a point. She doesn't storm out for attention. She walks away quietly, with grace, with dignity, with a finality that echoes louder than any argument ever could. Because when she walks, it's not to punish. It's to protect. She protects her peace, her purpose, her power. And she doesn't make a spectacle of it. She simply exits when the space no longer honors the woman she's worked so hard to become. And that silence, that absence, that's what keeps him awake at night. Because when she's gone, she's gone. No half measures, no returns, just distance. And the sting of knowing he lost something real. What most people don't understand is that leaving takes more strength than staying. Anyone can stay. Anyone can beg, plead, hope, and bargain. But it takes an entirely different level of self-respect to look at someone you love and say, I love you, but I love myself more. That's not selfishness. That's self-preservation. That's choosing alignment over attachment. She gave chances. She had patience. She communicated. But the moment she saw that her presence was being taken for granted, that her love was being mishandled, she chose herself. And that choice, that's the difference between a woman who settles and a woman who ascends. She doesn't leave because she stopped caring. She leaves because she started caring about herself again. She doesn't stay for potential. She doesn't stay for memories. She doesn't stay because of fear or guilt. She's learned that loving someone is not the same as being loved well. And no matter how much she once desired the future she imagined with him, she'll let it all go if the reality becomes too heavy to carry. She's done confusing pain with passion. She's done romanticizing inconsistency. She doesn't crave the roller coaster anymore. She craves peace. So when she leaves, it's not a threat. It's not manipulation. It's the final boundary. It's the line she draws when her soul whispers, "You don't belong here anymore." And she listens, even when it hurts. Even when her heart screams to stay, because her spirit has the final say. The most dangerous woman is the one who doesn't need closure. The one who doesn't wait for apologies. The one who doesn't waste her energy explaining what someone was never willing to understand. She just moves. She chooses silence over drama, distance over dysfunction, peace over proving her point. That woman doesn't scream. She doesn't chase. She lets her absence speak, and it speaks volumes. Because when she leaves, everything shifts. The energy changes. The room feels emptier. Her presence lingers. Not because she was needy, but because she was necessary. Necessary in ways that aren't always seen until she's gone. And by the time someone realizes what they lost, it's too late. She's already rebuilding in places where she's valued, not just tolerated. There's power in knowing when to stop fighting. She doesn't wear herself out trying to fix what was never hers to heal. She understands now. If she has to fight to be chosen, it's not her battle. If she has to remind someone of her worth, they're not capable of seeing it. So she takes all that love, all that effort, all that energy, and she redirects it back into herself. She pours it into her dreams, into her growth, into the parts of her that got buried trying to love someone who couldn't meet her there. Because she's not afraid of being alone. She's afraid of shrinking. She's afraid of silencing her intuition. She's afraid of forgetting who she is while trying to hold on to someone who keeps letting go. And that fear, that's what fuels her strength to finally walk. The aftermath of her departure is quiet, but it's haunting. Not because she left chaos behind, but because she left value. Her love was a sanctuary. Her loyalty was rare. Her presence was grounding. And when she removes all of that, the emptiness becomes unbearable. Because the truth is, a man doesn't miss a woman just because she was around. He misses her when he realizes she was rooted. That while everyone else was temporary, she was the constant. While others brought noise, she brought peace. And once she's gone, there's no replacing that. Because she's not the kind of woman you can substitute. She's the kind you remember. The kind that rewires how you experience love. The kind that walks away and leaves a legacy behind her. There's a kind of woman who doesn't try to be wanted, because she already is. She's not seeking validation. She's not performing for approval. She's not bending over backwards trying to prove her worth. She's simply living in it, breathing it, owning it. And that ownership radiates in everything she does. She's not desperate to be chosen. She doesn't wait by the phone. She doesn't shrink herself to be more likable. Instead, she steps boldly into her own life. She doesn't ask, "Am I good enough for him?" She asks, "Is he aligned with the woman I'm becoming?" That shift in mindset changes everything. Because when a woman chooses herself first, not in selfishness, but in soul alignment, she becomes the kind of woman who doesn't just attract love, she attracts devotion. They're not magic. A man can't live without her, not because she traps him or tricks him or plays games, but because she inspires something in him that no one else ever has. She brings a certain energy into his life that's both wild and grounding. She awakens his purpose. She sharpens his thinking. She calls out the parts of him he tried to ignore. Her presence alone is a mirror, reflecting who he is and who he could be. That's the kind of power a high-value woman holds. Not in manipulation, but in magnetism. He doesn't chase her out of insecurity. He chooses her out of reverence. Because something in her presence makes him want to rise. She doesn't demand he change. She just exists in such authenticity that the idea of staying stagnant around her feels impossible. She's not for everyone, and she's okay with that. Because she's not trying to be the most agreeable, the most easygoing, the most palatable version of herself. She's not suppressing her strength to sow the fragile egos. She's not turning down her ambition to make others feel comfortable. She's not hiding her standards behind fake smiles. She's fully expressed, fully embodied, and fully unapologetic. That authenticity costs her sometimes. Some people will walk away. Some men won't be ready. But she never chases. She doesn't mourn the loss of someone who was never equipped to handle her depth. Because she knows what's meant for her won't be intimidated by her power. It will honor it, amplify it, and walk beside it. She doesn't just inspire love. She creates impact. She's the kind of woman who lingers in a man's mind years after she's left the room. Not because of what she did, but because of he was when she did it. She doesn't move through life passively. She leaves fingerprints on everything she touches. His mindset, his vision, his heart. A man might meet 100 women after her, but something will always feel different. Because she made him feel seen. Not for who he pretended to be, but for who he could be. That kind of woman shifts a man's entire emotional foundation. She becomes his standard, not because she told him to make her one, but because his soul recognized her value long before his mind could explain it. And the reason she has that effect, because she became that woman through fire, through failure, through heartbreak. She didn't just wake up powerful. She built herself piece by piece through every breakdown, every betrayal. Every sleepless night she cried herself into resilience. She learned how to sit in the darkness without losing her light. She learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. She found her worth in silence, not in someone else's affirmation. So now, when she enters a relationship, she doesn't bring desperation. She brings depth. She doesn't demand to be loved. She embodies love. And a man who encounters that level of self-possession either meets her there or watches her walk away. She is unforgettable because she knows who she is. And that kind of clarity isn't just attractive, it's liberating. She doesn't follow trends. She doesn't mimic what other women do. She follows her own rhythm, her own code. And that individuality makes her one in a million. She's not just another chapter in a man's story. She becomes a turning point. She becomes the moment he realized what love could feel like when it's real. And once he's experienced it, nothing else feels the same. Because when a woman walks through the world in full alignment with her truth, with her boundaries, her softness, and her fire, she doesn't just enter a man's life. She redefines it. She doesn't fear solitude. She embraces it. That's her secret. While others panic at the thought of being alone, she finds peace in her own company. She doesn't need constant validation, attention, or someone to fill the silence. She's not addicted to the noise of connection just to distract herself from her own voice. She's met herself in that quiet. She's listened to her fears, held space for her healing, and faced every truth most people run from. That's why she walks through life with such certainty. Because she's not trying to fill a void with a man. She's already whole. Her solitude has sculpted her identity. She knows what she wants, what she deserves, and most importantly, what she'll never settle for again. She doesn't date for entertainment or attention. She dates with intention. She knows love isn't about finding someone who can keep her occupied. It's about finding someone who can stand beside her in purpose. She won't entertain temporary just to escape loneliness. She won't waste her energy on someone whose words don't match their consistency. Her time is sacred now. Her energy is sacred. Her body, her heart, her peace, all sacred. So when she gives it with awareness. Not everyone gets access anymore, because she's learned access to her is a privilege, not a right. That's the mindset that shifts everything. A man doesn't just get her because he showed interest. He has to be aligned spiritually, emotionally, energetically, because she no longer builds with anyone who can't match her frequency. She doesn't just protect her time, she protects her peace. That's the part of her no one sees, but everyone feels. It's in the way she doesn't react to drama anymore, the way she doesn't engage in chaos, the way she walks away from toxicity, not with anger, but with calm resolve. Because she's seen what it costs her to stay in places that disturb her inner stillness. She's been through the cycle, the overthinking, the second guessing, the self-betrayal disguised as understanding. She's done making excuses for people who can't meet her where she stands. She knows peace is not passive. It's a discipline. It's something she chooses, protects, and prioritizes every single day. Because of that, she becomes the woman whose presence feels like clarity in a world full of confusion. A man doesn't feel drawn to her just because she's beautiful. He's drawn to her because she feels safe. And not in the way most people define safety. Not safety from pain, but safety in truth. He knows she's not playing games. She's not performing. She's not manipulating. She's real. And in a world that's become addicted to surface level connections, that authenticity is electric. She listens when she speaks. She observes more than she reacts. She speaks with intention, not impulse. She knows when to open her heart and when to protect it. Her emotional intelligence is not loud, but it's unmistakable. It's in the way she can hold space for someone else without abandoning herself. That kind of emotional maturity is rare. And when a man feels it, he doesn't just want her, he respects her. She's not chasing titles. She's not desperate to be called someone's girlfriend, wife, or partner. She's already a woman. And she knows that when she's in her power, the right man won't just want to claim her. He'll feel honored to stand beside her. Because she doesn't need a relationship to validate her worth. She's not waiting to be loved to feel lovable. She already moves like someone who's chosen, already carries herself like someone who's claimed. That's what makes her different. While others are busy proving themselves, she's simply being herself and letting that authenticity filter out anyone not meant for her path. She trusts the timing. She trusts the process. And most of all, she trusts herself. That level of self-trust makes her magnetic. She didn't become this way overnight. She earned it. Through heartbreak, through disappointment, through those lonely nights where she questioned everything and still chose to rise. She used to doubt her worth. She used to tolerate inconsistency just to feel loved. But not anymore. Now she knows love is not meant to be begged for. It's meant to be reflected back in the way someone shows up, holds space, and chooses you daily. And now that she knows what love really is, she'll never settle for less. She won't shrink, beg, or break herself in half to fit into someone else's version of enough. She doesn't chase love. She attracts it by living fully in her truth. And that truth, it's what makes her unforgettable. You see, this isn't about becoming the woman a man can't live without. It's about becoming the woman who can't live without herself. Because once you rise into your full power, once you honor your truth, your mission, your boundaries, your peace, you stop begging to be chosen and you start choosing. You choose alignment over attachment, growth over comfort, respect over attention, your self-worth over someone else's confusion. And when you live like that, fully, fearlessly, unapologetically, you don't just attract love, you attract devotion. Because a real man doesn't love you for being easy. He loves you for being real, for holding your ground, for walking in purpose, for showing him what it actually means to love a woman who knows who the hell she is. So don't shrink. Don't settle. Don't silence your power. Because the woman who lives by these hidden rules, she doesn't just get remembered. She becomes the standard